Okay, so I just saw this movie called Senior Love Triangle, and all I can say is it goes there. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I am pleased today to have on the director of Senior Love Triangle, Kelly Blatz. It's all the way. He's in Switzerland right now.
I know it's absurd.
No, it's great. Good to see you, Kelly. I'm so glad you want to take the time to talk about this. We get a lot of unusual indie films in here at the Film Threat offices. We don't have offices. We all work out of our respective residences. But your film really struck me because we don't see subject matter about senior citizens really covered in this kind of detail. I really was struck by how touching the film is, how tragic aspects of it are. It covers a guy that's kind of drifting in senior citizen homes and has romantic relationships with women, and is successful in that regard. It's also very romantic. Tell me where this whole project came from. I'm just really fascinated by how you were able to put this together. Your typical indie movie is, a bunch of kids on a road trip, or this is subject matter you don't see tackled very often. So where did this project come from?
First, let me adjust this. First, sure. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on, Chris, and thanks for watching the film and the words on it, man. It means so much. So where this began about 4 years ago. I was I am friends with a photojournalist named Isadora Kosofsky, and she's an amazing photojournalist, and she did this photo series for Time magazine called Senior Love Triangle, and her and I wanted to collaborate on something, and I said, I think Senior Love Triangle. I was just blown away by the photo series. It was so cinematic, and I was just fascinated by these characters and these real people in this triangle. And so we said, why don't we try to adapt this into a feature film? And so one night I said, tell me everything that you remember from your experience with them. She spent 3 years with them. And then I had all this material, and I said, I think this is a feature film. And then we just started to write the script, and that was 4 years ago when it started. So.
Well, it's I love that you pay tribute to this photo series at the end of the film, the inspiration, and show some of these photographs. It really it was so touching. I don't think I've ever heard of a film being inspired by a series of photos, but it really did tell this story. What I was also struck by in the film is the way that seniors are treated at these senior citizen homes, how it's basically the housing and care is treated just like a business, not unlike perhaps, say, our prison system, and how it's just, this is a business, and this is how seniors are, and also dealing with the lack of men, right? I mean, women outlive men. There is a severe shortage of men. I just seeing you now, as I see you, you're a young man. It just seems really fascinating that you were able to cover all of that so well. Maybe, did some of that experience just come from people that you knew, or your own research? It just seemed to really approach the subject matter in a sensitive way that I would not have expected. What I'm saying is, I'm surprised you're not older. So don't take that the wrong way.
No, not at all. I've heard that a lot. I was very lucky because, Isadora works. She works in a lot of these. She works in the prison system as well, and she spends so much time. She spent 3 years with these individuals, and so she really had, the real experience of what it was like and what these characters were going through. So I was lucky to have that firsthand raw material experience, both emotionally and with the societal aspects of it. I was just lucky to have a good source of material. And for me, and Isadora, we both hadn't seen a film portray senior citizens in a certain way where we thought they were always either, not always, but a lot of times the butt of a joke, or always somebody's grandmother. We had seen these similar tropes, and we thought, let's try to approach this in a different way. And again, we were just lucky to have that firsthand experience that she had with those people.
Well, I love that there is not just a sensitivity, there's a humanity, because just because you're of a certain age doesn't mean that you don't still have romantic or erotic feelings.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about working with the cast, and how you got them. I mean, there's a scene, there's a scene that's, it's a threesome. Let's not beat
Well,
around the bush.
It's in
mean,
the title,
right. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, all I can say is this: the movie lives up to the title. But not just that. There's one scene where there's lingerie and there's these romantic feelings. And where did you find a cast that was just willing to go there, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of kismet with the three of them, because we knew it was going to be difficult, because we had to find people who felt like the essence of the real characters and had to somewhat look like them, but really feel like them. And Isadora was a big part of that casting process. And so first we met Marlon Mason, who plays Jeannie, and she's so wonderful. And we met her at a film festival, because I had a short film at a festival in Oregon years ago. And we met her, and Isadora said, if we ever make Senior Love Triangle, that woman is Jeannie. She was an ex-actress. And so when we decided to make the film, we called Marlon up and we said, we have this script for you. And she read it and she says, I'll do whatever you need. She's like, I'll get naked. I'll do whatever you need. And we were like, okay, okay, great. And then, we had to go a traditional casting route in a way to try to find William, because it was a very difficult role, because it had to carry the sensitivity, but also this anger. And that's tough to find in an actor. And I had seen Tom in a few films, and we gave him the script, and he said, I love this. I want to do this. And then he brought on Angie, because he had done a play with her, I believe. Angie Bird plays Adina, and she's a big theater actress. And he said, this woman's amazing. She can do anything. So that's how it came together. It was, again, it was sort of a kismet situation with the three of them. And they all, once they got together, that dynamic was really created kind of immediately. And to be honest, I really didn't have to do much in terms of directing them. They were so wonderful. I just got really lucky with them.
Well, I think that I really love that.
And they were all also they were all also down for the cause. Meaning, we had no dressing rooms. It was that type of film, and they said, I think they really just believed in the material, and I was grateful that they trusted me with their performance.
So kind of like a current day Soderbergh set, you do your own makeup. There's no wardrobe trailer or whatnot. It's just show up and be ready to work. It had that kind of raw feel. I mean, you didn't build sets for this, right? Like, these are all real locations. And I recognize so many of the buildings, beautiful parts of Los Angeles that are rarely filmed. And by beautiful, I mean, some of them not so maybe aesthetically pleasing, but classic old buildings and just parts of LA that generally don't get photographed. William, the guy, he was amazing. I know I've seen him. I feel like I've seen him in a million things, or I actually feel like I've run into him around Hollywood. He was fantastic in the movie.
He's incredible. Tom Bauer. Yeah, he's just a wonderful man. He's, he was most recently in the Breaking Bad film El Camino, but he's been in, he's that guy who just pops into a scene and he's just electric, and with this, I mean, he was so in it as well, the way he works. I mean, we barely spoke, to be honest, and after we finished the film, I said, "How was that?" And he sort of looked at me in a different way, kind of back to himself, and he said it was a difficult headspace to be in, and it was just, he's a veteran, and so for me, I just said, "Hey, do your thing," and he did. He was so wonderful because it was a delicate balance with this character because, on the page he's incredibly unlikable. I was getting those notes, and I said, I just need to find the right actor. He's going to bring a sensitivity to it, and that's what Tom did. So very grateful to have him.
He totally nailed it. I mean, he has a gravitas, right? Like he has that kind of gravitas. So, in terms of filming, did you seek out these locations? What were the difficulties with that? And then getting in the, just being able to get that, because I do believe that the two pieces of production value that are most important are cast and location. And on that, you really just got I mean, you did an amazing job on those counts. Like it really just the cast and location was great. What was it like working in those locations and nailing down those spaces and whatnot to really give, like I say, parts of LA that you normally do not see filmed?
Well, first, I'm glad that you noticed, being from somebody who knows LA, noticed some of these locations that tend to not be filmed. I think we really wanted to stay true to the photo series, which a lot of it was in the sort of East Hollywood, Western, Sunset, Western Hollywood area. And, what we did was for months and months, we just went around and drove around and picked places and said, we'd knock on their doors or find the building manager and say, "Hey, would you be interested in shooting a film here? We don't have any money." And most of the time it was a no, but if you ask enough, if you knock on enough doors, one person will say yes. My grandmother meant so much to me, and she had a similar situation, and I would love to help you out. And there was a lot of those good Samaritans and angels that came in to help us with locations. But as you know, and finding these locations is just the type of thing where we went around with our DP and we just said, what is going to capture the same feeling of this photo series in the sort of East Hollywood feel, and with a lot of these homes, and like you said about these disparities between, or this thing being a business in these homes, you would see sort of the four seasons of these retirement facilities, and then you'd see the ones that were essentially government housing, and the different mix of people within each of them. And so again, we just got really lucky with meeting a lot of wonderful people who wanted to help us out with this film.
I love that the movie has sort of a smallness and sweetness to it. I guess when I was looking at the locations, my first thought was, how did they find parking? Because I know those areas and there's never parking. It's seriously, that's
oh man, it was, I mean, to be honest, there was a lot of challenges.
This is why we were talking before we started recording. This is why I live close to a train station in Pasadena. It's because it's so impossible. If I'm going to go into Hollywood, I just take the train, take the metro.
Yeah.
And I think, like how difficult traversing Los Angeles can be when it comes to just trying to find, a parking space. But
yeah. Sorry. I was going to say LA is not the easiest place to film. But again, it was just a couple people in vans just going and saying, let's do this really quick, and then picking up and moving on.
I'm curious people's reaction to the film. What I really love is the fact that, the whole movie is from the point of view of William, right? And the women he's involved with, and just, you just see from like the people that work in the facilities and how they're treated, to the service workers, and just, they're almost just like they're treated like a burden. I mean, I love that you approached it that way, with a humanity, that it is like, this really puts you in that space of like, okay, get ready. This is everyone's future. God willing, you reach that age, right? You reach that age. This is what it's going to be for everyone. What was it like in dealing with the actors? Did they feel like it rang true? Not that they're in homes themselves, but you know what I mean? Like what were their thoughts on, having read the script?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting with them because with the actors, they've lived many experiences, and there are certain things where they've either experienced themselves or they had family members or friends who'd experienced a similar thing. But none of them had ever actually lived in a retirement home. They're all relatively young, and so it was fascinating for them to be in these places. And we used a lot of the real residents as extras in a lot of these scenes, and to really talk to them and see what their relationship was like with their family, or if their family came to see them, or but what I saw was that at least these two facilities that we shot in is that the people running them were really wonderful and really loved their job, and really loved the residents, and they always wanted to take care of the residents. And when we were shooting in there, we wanted to be very like, this is your home and thank you for having us. And they were really protective over their residents, and they all welcomed us. But it's definitely a community. And for me, I thought, this is something to look forward to in a way. I think I'd want to end up here, because there's, you got salsa classes on Wednesday, you got, a bingo tonight, and everybody's friends. And it actually was really eye-opening as well. So, yeah.
I'm curious how audiences have reacted to it. Like I said, like most of the indie movies that I see are kind of focused on a particular demographic, right? And I what I love is that you were able to bring this humanity and sensitivity to to this subject matter. So what have been the reactions from audiences, both a younger audience and an older audience? Do they react differently? What do they think when they see this?
It's been fascinating, Chris, because we've been touring this film for about a year in festivals, and from festivals that are more younger oriented, completely young audience, and then a festival that is 50 plus, packed house. And the reactions are always so interesting. It's usually, whatever it is not really tepid. It's always a very strong thing, and it tends to elicit something within them, either, gosh, I'm living with this man, or my mother has dementia, and really it's a very strong reaction. But even with younger people, it's not just sort of geared towards the older demographic. It tends to elicit a lot of responses with them as well, because in the end, it's really about connection and about romance and unfulfilled desires, and we all deal with that. And so it tends to be something really strong, whether it's positive or negative. It's strong. It's not usually like, oh, that was sweet. So that's been really interesting, and I'm really interested. Once it gets out in it's 3 weeks when it gets released. I'm really interested to see how people respond.
Well, I think it shows also you're never too old to have a threesome. I think that's also the other thing about the film.
That's the theme of the film. Yeah,
I know it's not the theme of the film, but
I'm just kidding.
I really love that the way that particular scene is handled is with such a sensitivity. There's nothing salacious about it. It's just very much this very, very loving. I just thought it was just so well done. I don't want to talk specifically about the ending because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it. Or if you have seen it, maybe keep listening a little bit. That ending is really heart-wrenching. And there's a thread throughout the film that pays off at the end that I was just like, oh my God. Right. Like I didn't see coming. I thought was like, I just thought it was heart-wrenching. I'm just curious if that's based on anything real, without going into too much detail, but I thought that payoff was incredible.
Well, first, it is based on something real. This is something that did happen and that Isadora did witness. And so that's why, I usually only pop in at the very end of these festival screenings, and that particular scene still gets me every single time. It's just so heartbreaking, even thinking about it now. And but yeah, and what's interesting as well is a lot of people say, my dad experienced that same thing, or I've experienced that same thing. It's senior citizens are a sort of target for that. And again, without giving too much away, Isadora finally, she didn't at first know what was going on, but later on, she finally realized, as the audience will in the film, what was actually going on with this deal, with this deal that William was working. But still, so heartbreaking.
Yeah, it just
and I was going to answer your question before about the sensitivity. One thing we really wanted to do as well is to treat these characters and these situations and these issues with as much respect as possible, and not being flippant about that. And that was very important to both Isadora and I, is treat these characters with respect and dignity, and not poke fun at anything. And as a filmmaker, I think that's your biggest fear, is that you haven't done enough work to really make the specifics and authentic as possible, because if you're just working with a surface level, it can be very disrespectful. So I'm glad that you got that impression.
Well, I appreciate an independent film that tackles a topic and has deeper layers, and you definitely delivered that. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks.
I'm just like, I really like, when I saw this movie, I don't know why I just decided to watch it. It was, normally I tend to go for like your horror sci-fi, but when I saw that, I thought I have to see this, and wow, just so, and I also think it's a movie that families can watch as well, because I feel like the more difficult aspects of it are just handled correctly, handled in a sensitive way and not in a salacious or exploitative way. I think there's a time and a place for exploitation. Thankfully, you did,
well,
you did it well.
Thank you. That means so much to me, that you even watched the film, and that you watched the film twice. Because
yes,
I'm still grateful for anybody who takes an hour and a half of their lives to sit and watch this film, and you always hope that it's that it was worth it for them. So thank you for those words, and because again, that's what we really wanted to try to do, is to shine a light on these issues and these characters who aren't really shown in this type of way, and that's what we attempted, and hopefully we got close, hopefully.
Right. Kelly Blatz, thank you so much for talking to us all the way from Switzerland, right? Like,
weird. I don't know why I'm here or where I am, but I am in Switzerland. Thanks, man. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks again for watching the film.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Senior Love Triangle gets my recommendation of an indie movie that you must see this year in 2020, a year where we're experiencing so much in the world. 2020 feels like just this year feels like a decade, but this movie is just has so much heart, and I appreciate it that you've shared it with the world. Thank you so much, Kelly, for talking to us on the Film Threat Podcast. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate it, man. Hopefully we'll talk soon.